Hopeful for tomorrow, good enough today. Oh yeah, hopeful for tomorrow, good enough today.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Good Enough Today, the podcast where we share stories of people showing up authentically just as who they are, even when life sucks. I'm your host, Cheremma Lee, and today we have a special guest, Mimi Styles, with us, who is a mother, a daughter, a child of God, a wife, a sister, and an author, and also a CEO. And she shows up in all those roles, but authentically, she's still Mimi. Mimi, how are you today?
I am good. I'm so excited to be on this podcast with you, Cheremma. Like I feel good anytime I'm with you. So,
Uh, I'd like to think I have that effect on people. Okay, so you know that we start this off with your PEM. Tell me, how are you really today, physically, emotionally, mentally, on a scale from 1 to 10?
okay, that's good. Now you got now I have to think. Okay. So let me be real, if that's okay.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, I'm be real. So like I I would say then for physically, I'm probably at about a 7 or maybe a good solid 8. And that's because I decided today to go take some like walk and talk meetings around the lake. I have a lake right here by my home. And so it's like a 3-mile walk. So I was able to like get out and like chug it out and also kind of do work. I'm a crazy, multitasker. So I love to kind of couple that stuff together. So I feel good around physical health. You said PEE emotionally.
Yes, emotionally.
Okay. So then emotionally, I feel like I'm probably at maybe about a 6.
Okay.
Because I am holding a lot right now. Um, Organizational changes and transitions. The world, I feel like, is going kind of wild.
Mhm.
Navigating government stuff. Um, and but I think holding that is hard. Um, but then I'm also holding a lot of joy. So that I don't know. I feel like I'm not like totally like, in the dumps or whatnot.
Yes.
I don't like totally. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And mentally, how are you feeling? And I think I think you know the difference between emotionally and mentally here. So
Yeah. Yeah. Mentally, I'm about an 8. I feel clear. I feel really grounded. I feel at peace. I feel like my brain is hydrated. I kind of say that like my mental health is not well, like when my brain is like dry, So
I
like
I, I love that. Wait a minute. See, Mimi's dropping stuff already. Haven't even gotten into it, and she's dropping it already. But I love that. I might steal that. You should have copywritten that, Mimi, because I like the concept. I really do. We got. Oh man. Okay. So if your mental health is not well, if your mind is dry, I get it. Like I get it. That
it's
is
like
amazing.
feeling dehydrated and it's like
Yes, it's everything's left out and you don't have it in there. You need to hydrate it. I love that.
yeah.
That's genius. Listen, look at you. I
I
like
think I feel like I'm present and good and like, I notice when there's signs of like feeling like burnout and so forth. And so like I'm feeling like I am navigating that well right now.
that's awesome. That is awesome. So I'm supposed to ask next, what is bringing you strength and joy? But I'm gonna leave that on the table for a second so that you can think about that question. But one of the things that you just kind of mentioned is that you can feel yourself getting burned out, or
Mhm.
you keep track of that,
Mhm.
and then you can kind of recalibrate. How do you know? What are some signs that you feel, or how do you keep that at bay?
I have a check. Like I literally have I measure everything. So like I have a little check-in type thing where I can, say I am feeling this right now. I'm feeling overstressed because I mean, work stress is a fool, and work stress lately has been a fool. And so, navigating the changes in the climate, the political climate, like me in my case, philanthropy and stuff like that is changing, and we're in a space where our very rights are now being threatened, and so that is again being open and honest about where we're at. That stress, that amount of work stress is really heavy. So I have to constantly think about where I'm at on that scale, on the Richter scale, right? And then if it gets too, I mean, I'm from California, so when things start to rock, I need to duck and hide. I need to take cover, and that means that I may need to leave, vacate,
Yes.
okay, on vacation. I may need to get under this table and close the door and act like I'm not here, and in a quiet, not really, but in a quiet space, go in my
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's just or I may need to plan differently. I may need to strategize differently. I may need to remove myself from, from a process, or people that are stealing my joy. And so I'm just in a space right now of being just very honest about who I am, what God has purposed me to do, and that that I need to be safe enough in both of those things to withstand burnout, because burnout is the absence of fire. And I know God has lit me, right, to go do his bidding or her bidding or their whatever,
Right.
I gotta stay lit. I gotta stay lit. So
I need to start taking notes on the words that you're saying right now, because I feel like you're giving me all the anecdotes. I love the concept of staying lit and not allowing your fire to go out. So I have a couple of questions for you. One, and this is something that I have struggled with, is understanding what I need in that space, right? So do I just need a hug, or do I need something warm to drink? So how do you kind of figure out what you need in those times? Or is it a trial and error, or how do you know what you need in order to keep that fire lit?
Yeah. I have gotten really good at time travel as a form of meditation in order to better understand what I need and why I need it. Right.
Okay.
So sitting back, giving myself time to truly breathe and think about, if I don't do what I need to do for myself right now, what are the implications 150 years from today on my legacy and on my great, great, great granddaughter? Let me go talk to her. Okay. What if I don't rest right now? When I know that my great, great grandfather fought so that I could rest today, what would he tell me? So I go back there and I go sit at his feet. And so
Okay. Go ahead, Mimi.
I didn't think it's important that, because everything matters. And so it matters if I don't give myself the opportunity to be responsive to the fool that is stress.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so this is interesting because I have this problem. And of course, if you are a new listener, or if you're a listener that's been listening, you understand that I have a problem with vulnerability. But I also, when I sit still, I don't like I don't want to say, I don't like the accountability that sometimes comes with being still, right? Because sometimes when you're sitting still, you have no other way out but to see yourself for what it is right then. And then that accountability, I think, is you can't run away from the things that you've been running away from. Whether that is what God wants you to do right then or something that you see that you should be doing differently. And so for me, sitting still is an accountability sometimes that I'm not ready to face. And so in your meditation and the things that you see, do you come up with that accountability, and how do you kind of work through that?
That is such a good question, and I'm glad that you're like so self-aware to knowing that that's a thing for you. And like, you know, for me, it's about being it is about acknowledging that there might be some duality in that accountability. Like there are dual roles. I am showing up in several different ways at one time. And so that means for me that it may be that I am tired and I can still have hope. I am tired of this situation and I can still have hope in this situation. I am afraid, but I can also still be brave enough to get through it. Right? I am disappointed, but I can still dream through that disappointment. And so for me, it's not pitting myself in a space where I have got to be accountable to this thing or to that fool, right? But you know what I'm saying? But instead being able to give myself the space to both, to both fight and have faith at the same time. And
that's awesome.
And that that allows you to be able to breathe through it. And then there's also the point of just, there's a reason why they say, you do gotta just, God turn the other cheek. Turn the other cheek sometimes. You just gotta turn around and like walk somewhere else, and like that is okay too. So
that's it. No, I appreciate that, because I feel like meditation is so important. And there are a lot of people who say, well, I can't sit still for a moment. I can't actually. And meditation, I think, can look different for a lot of people. So I'm happy that you're touching on the impact that it can have, because when I do meditate, I am a much better person, right? When I just sit still for a moment, I am a better version of myself in everywhere that I show up, right? Even though I might want to fight the accountability that comes with looking at yourself, right? There is some kind of peace in like, okay, I have some clarity on these specific things. And I think people see meditation, they think that you're about to get all the answers, right? You're about to be like, oh, right.
That was like my first experience with like, what in the world? It was,
me too. What's love got to do with it was like, okay, I'm gonna get in this closet and they keep saying it. That's how you meditate. So I'm happy that we are in a space now where mental health is something that we are recognizing and understanding that sitting still. Now, I want to also touch on your fire staying lit, because one thing that I have noticed and that I have experienced is people trying to put your fire out. Right. And so that can look a lot of different ways, especially for a young child, and then as a teen, and then as an adult. So if you can kind of touch on maybe how you interact when people do try to extinguish your fire, and then how do you keep moving when it gets a little hard because people are trying to put that fire out?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Cheremma. And I really haven't had a lot of time to think about that, but I think based on the way that I move, because I know myself really, really well, and what I know to be true about myself is that I welcome the fanning of my flames, right? I welcome it. I believe in agitation, and I believe in wind, And and I know that sometimes some folks may think in their heads that they're trying to extinguish my fire by blowing, but they fan in the flame, and it's gonna grow. You know what I'm saying? So it's how I like to give myself grace enough to know when to listen to, right? If someone is trying to extinguish your fire, it's because you might have missed something too, right? So I'm an evaluator by trade. I'm like, what is it that you're really trying to say? You don't really want me to stop doing, right? Because it's actually benefiting a lot of people. You don't want me to sit down, okay? What is it that you're really trying to say? You know?
Yes.
And it might just be I'm hurting, or my community is hurting because of this, or and so really having a better understanding of where that agitation is coming from, or why someone might try to, extinguish, is me. I guess at the end of the day, it's staying curious. It's really staying curious about people, but being very clear that the more you blow, the harder I'm gonna flow. So, I welcome that. I welcome the discourse. I welcome the agitation. I welcome the blowing of the flame, because that's how fires start, you know? Now there's also, I think the only one that has control over the extinguishment of my fire is, number one, when God says stop. He can put it out in 2 seconds. And number two is when I say I'm done. And I've done it before. I mean, there's several projects and things that I've just, that's it, so just not giving people control of the fire, that extinguisher,
And have you always had this tenacity? Is this something that you would think is innate, or has it gotten stronger as you become more experienced and wise?
Definitely as I've gotten older, more wiser. I'm in my big age right now, I may look like I'm, 20,
You do though. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Clock that. Clock that.
No, I'm in a big age. I have almost, my child is almost, is in her almost, 30s at some point soon, 26 years old. So this is definitely a new version of myself. I have had to go in and reinvent who I am and deal with trauma and drama and mental health and mental illness. I've had to embrace my neurodivergence, and understand it. And as I understand, oh, this is the way my brain works and why, it works the way that it does. I've been able to grow. Like growth is something that I'm gonna continue to like be happy about. And this is really the me, as a grown me.
I hear you. Now, this is interesting because you are what you would term a futurist, right? In a tech space that is predominantly male, and you don't see very many women of color like yourself in this space. So how do you navigate that and then still show up authentically as you in those spaces?
Technology has always been in my community, and Black women have always been at the helm of technology. Women have always been at the helm of technology. The loom helped to inform the first computer program, the loom. Now these may have been some white folks, but we know who was using the loom,
Right.
And again, we've seen the movie Hidden Figures, but but at the end of the day, technology has always been something that we've mastered. and created. If you ask Dawa, from Dawa Hills, they look at technology differently. They look at, community is the best form of technology. So it's really owning my my um my truth that I belong here and that your product is not going to be good unless you listen to what I got to say about it, right? Like our community, like we know what's best when it comes to the building and creating of technology. And so walking in that power is, I think, is something that keeps my head up in rooms like that. Because at the end of the day, it's also, you also become very invisible as a Black woman, in those rooms. And so I have to speak louder, right? So if you may not see me, but you're gonna hear me,
I love that. I love that.
Mhm.
I love that. And I think that that's one of the things, you hear all these different anecdotes about showing up and the battles that we have to fight, right? And especially in the environment today where there are so many battles, right? There are so many things to fight. Um, how do you find the little bit, because it has to get tiring, right? So how do you find the strength from day to day, or the hope rather, right? Our tagline is hopeful for tomorrow, good enough today, right? And so how do you find the hope for tomorrow, even when today seems very bleak, or this moment seems very bleak?
I find hope in women, in Black women. I do. Like I feel the best. I feel the most full when I just on my rounds of calling my girlfriends and stuff like that, or checking in on my community. I'm really good at that, and um that's where I think that's really where my hope lies, is seeing them rise and step into their God-given purposes and be excited about it and resting in their brilliance and stuff like that. For me, brings me so much joy when I know I see, my sister's waking up. Her name is Sherelle, and like when I know that she's taking a long nap and she's just like creative and buzzing, like I love that for her. I love seeing her face like that. You know what I'm saying? Like rested and like cozy and all that. Like I don't know. I love seeing Black women rested and happy and having fun and like joy. I also love, I love community, you know. Now I say that with a grain of salt though, because I'm also a person that I'm an extreme introvert, right? So, and people don't know that about me because I show up a lot, like in different spaces, but I can only stay in one place for a certain amount of time before having to like quickly retreat,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying? So like,
I you're like you're talking to a mirror right now, because yes, I had a launch party last week, and it's taken me 3 days to get into this space to just recover from. And I love everyone there. I genuinely love the support and the people, but recharging is a real thing. And because you can show up, sometimes people take that for granted. Now, I don't want to miss a couple of things with you, because I think there are three important things. One, that you have measure, because I think that that's an important aspect of this community. And you said something about community being the best form of technology. And I thought that was,
Dawa
yes,
Hill, an organization.
Darwa Hill said that.
Mhm.
And so I thought that was so interesting, because I feel like what we're missing is a sense of community. And what our kids are missing, what us as a people, what our communities generally are missing, is a sense of community. And can you kind of expound a little bit on what you mean, or what you've come to understand about community being a best form of technology?
Yeah, I mean, I learned from from Shaka and Kidada. These are the two, Shaka leads, Dawa heals. And so he had that saying on a t-shirt. I still don't have that t-shirt. First of all, I need come on, Shaka, I need to get that t-shirt. Okay. But what I interpret from that, and he said that on a panel before we were on a panel, a South by Southwest panel, and that's when he first introduced me to this concept of his. And what it means is that, technology just basically is created to help people do less. Okay. Having to put out less of their own output, but then receive more, right? And helps, technology helps people do better and work better and be more efficient. And, and so why wouldn't community be that form of technology? It's when we're together, when we're working together, when we're all a part of this system of good, this system of sometimes survival, this system of sometimes of rebuilding, right? Then it takes everyone. Everyone has a piece or a lever or a cord or, in order to work together in order, and so I love that saying so much because it is so true. Right. And, God speaks to that a lot too. It's the body, right? And the body has different functions and on all the things. But I mean, your body is also a sense of a tool. It's a technology, And so I think that the more we look at technology in a more human-centered way, we will build better technology, especially in the face of where we're at now with like artificial intelligence and all of the things. The more human we can embrace technology, the better we will be.
No, that's awesome. That is, and I love that definition and explanation because as you were explaining it, I got to see like community does make all those things easier. The leaning on someone, the first instinct I think I have is to retreat into myself, instead of retreating and leaning on my community. And I think that's what my goal is, to create with Good Enough Today, a community of people who are unafraid to ask, right? Like to say, hey, this is what I have going on. Can you help me? And you might not be able to solve the problem, but you can kind of give me some information or a resource that I might not know because I just don't know enough. And hopefully we can see the importance of asking. And I said that there were 3 things I do want to touch on measure, but you have a book out called The House the 90s Built. And I'm telling you, you start off and you just hit us with the heat. I don't want to give too much away, but you went through a traumatic experience, and had a heart attack, maybe.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Like 35, what was that, 35, 36 years old, 35 years old. Yeah. Yeah.
And you had a heart attack. And how did you deal with that? When because you're Mimi going along, being the boss that you are, and then boom, you have a heart attack. And then can you kind of just walk us through how do you go from Mimi then, right, to Mimi heart attack, and then overcoming that, and then who you are now? What's that process been for you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, again, settling ourselves in the data, 50% of Black women over the age of 24 years old have heart disease. So I always have to say it twice, 50% of Black women over 24 years old have a form of heart disease. So whether it is coronary artery disease, whether it's, a blockage that they may not know is coming or is forming, it is that's a
Did you say 50? 50%?
50.
Over the age of 20.
Over 24 years old. So
okay.
Heart disease is prevalent in our community. All of my aunts have had heart attacks. Um, and so we do have to understand that statistic in our community better. And we have to go get heart checked, and we have to eat better, and we have to walk and exercise and do better with our bodies in order to survive, right? But that and our stress. So I am at a good place today. I was not during that time. That was about, golly, that was almost 10 years ago. Well, less than 10 years ago, but it was at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I was working alongside some major, movement makers and leaders and activists in our community. And it was hard work. I was traumatizing myself every single day. This world was traumatizing me every single day. I was sitting at the feet of, some of, other Black women who have lost their children due to police brutality. I mean, navigating, being the voice of, in many ways, of our community, leading major marches alongside several other phenomenal leaders in our city. And the devil tried to take me out, period. And I knew it was coming too. I was in DC when I had started having that heart attack. I was the walking dead for maybe 3 days. Consistently, this heart attack lasted that long, until I ended up driving myself to the hospital and died basically and came back type thing. So when we talk about that book and the pressure that I was feeling, I hope people don't understand that pressure was not just the physical heart, but it was emotional, and it was spiritual, and it was, my inability to navigate racism. And because racism is that thick, so I did, but at the end of the day, what you'll see through that book is that even though I was, dying, in that book, you'll see that, I was healing. That it took that for me to begin to heal. It took almost death for me to begin to heal.
I think that I completely understand that. And I would hope that maybe from us talking about it, that the next person, it won't take almost death for you to begin to heal, right? I think that the story is so common, especially in our community. And I think amongst leaders who are trying to be change makers, right? Who are trying to make a drastic change in our community or change the world. I tell people I want to change the world one person at a time, right? Like, how can I do that? How can I be a reflection of God's love for me and on other people? And what does that look like? But when you talk about that, it comes with pressure. And the pressure and the responsibility of that weighs on us heavily. I think it goes back to taking care of ourselves, as we talked about a little bit in the beginning. And I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on, especially with you here right now, you keep telling us to ground ourselves in data, and we haven't touched on why that is so important to you. Can you talk about a little bit about Measure itself, and also why it's so important to know the statistics so that we can impact change somehow?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Measure was born as a baby, a trauma baby, first of all. So let me just start with that. It was a trauma baby. It came out of the Black Lives Matter movement when we just needed, data and statistics in order to try to fight back against the police. Period. That's what Measure is. It then began to manifest into a more community research focus. And so how do we, empower our communities to lead the change that we need to see in whether it's health, whether it's economics, whether it's criminal justice or technology. How do we empower our communities to be strong, have the data that they need in order to get funded, in order to stay sustainable? And how do we infuse the world with research and statistics that we know to be true, right? So that is the power of measure. It is also, again, being an organization born out of trauma. It never was. Nobody ever planned for it. Like I didn't. Okay, I'm the founder. Like literally never planned for it. So I'm learning every single day on what it means to lead an organization of Black women to go do this type of work. Why I know it's so important is because data does matter. I've always been a person that counts, right? And I know how important collective power is. My dad taught me that. He was a Black Panther, and he did a lot of work in our community. And I grew up watching that, so I've always seen what collective power looks like, and that's an equation, right, for me. So I needed to create a space where math, right, could help us create a path.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm going to give you a couple of rapid fire questions so that you can kind of give our listeners a little bit. What would you say to a person who is in darkness and what I call the suckiness of life, right? The suck. What would you say to them to help them kind of move forward and keep just making little strides to make progress?
That where they're at right now, it is a season and seasons change. So that I get that from my pastor, is that like this actually is a season, although that's kind of jargony, but seasons do change. So don't get too comfortable. So whether it is a hard time right now, I get it, I've been there, that the season will change, and just to prepare yourself for that change. You might be in a great place right now, but the season will change, right? And so be prepared for that too, that you don't need to be completely whole to be worthy, right? You don't have to be completely whole to be worthy. You're worthy right now. And that just to keep breathing, like one soft, radical breath at a time, will get you through this season.
That's awesome. And I think that's a great segue into my last final question for you is, what does good enough today mean to you?
Good enough today means that I am honoring the gifts that I have been given, and I'm using them to create more gifts. That's what that means for me. If I can go to sleep at night knowing that I honored the things that have been gifted into me and that I re-gifted them out to someone else. I'm a big regifter. Like, I mean, I'm going to, okay, like,
I got you.
What I got, but like, sometimes people, like, look, know.
Sometimes you just got to be a blessing to someone else is what we say.
And that's okay.
You gotta be a blessing, and that's okay. So tell people where they can buy your book. How can they get in touch? How can they donate to Measure?
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, my book is on Amazon, and it's also on Barnes and Noble. It's called The House the 90s Built. The House the 90s Built. That's it. Yep. And it took me 2 years to write it, but it is a nice short little novella. And I hope that each chapter kind of speaks to them as they read it. Use it as a guide for your family to heal. And I'll just let you take that where you want it. There is a healing guide in the back of the book too. And then for Measure, please visit us at wemeasure.org. It's wemeasure.org. We absolutely are embracing anyone that pours into our organization, because it really does help other people. So.
That's amazing. And thank you so much, Mimi, for joining me with all of this knowledge. I promise I will be taking notes. I don't know if you've seen the woman that has that notebook and she just writes down all the things that people say. I think that I can take a lot of notes from what we said today. And I really appreciate your time and effort, and really, really encouraging people to stay hopeful for tomorrow, but understand that they're absolutely good enough today.
Hopeful for tomorrow, good enough today. Oh yeah, hopeful for tomorrow, good enough. today.